Hi, I'm Lisa and welcome to my channel, The Southern Seamstress. If you're a regular viewer, welcome back. And if you're new to my channel, thanks so much for dropping by. If you're experiencing the winter months like we are here in Arkansas, I hope you're staying warm and toasty. We've already experienced some snow this winter, and now lately it's been raining but a little bit warmer. And I must say, I think I'm already ready for springtime. I'm not much of a cold weather person, although my husband loves it and could take it all year round. But I'd rather be warm and sunny wearing shorts and sandals any day of the year. I've been pretty busy with work lately, so I haven't got a lot of sewing done, but I have been working on a project. January and February are usually my busiest months of the year for my job, so it's been rather late in the evenings before I've been able to get to my sewing. But I have been working on a new project, and I want to share that project with you today. And I also have a couple of fabrics that I haven't shared yet that I got at the very end of last year. So the project I've been working on is a new pattern by French Navy. It's called the Portmanteau Shacket. I think that's how it's pronounced. I think it's a really cute little shacket. I think it looks more like a jacket than some of the other shacket patterns I've seen. This pattern comes in a pretty wide range of sizes, just like all of French Navy's patterns. It comes in sizes A through N, starting with a bust size of 31.5 to about 60 inches, waist from 25 inches to about 52.5, and hips from 35.5 to 62.5. My measurements fell pretty close to the B, and I think in the bust it was more of a C, but there's enough easing in the pattern when I looked at the finished garment measurements that I just went by a straight B. This pattern calls for medium to heavyweight woven fabrics such as flannel, linen, chambray, denim, corduroy, wool, or wool blends. And then it also has a partial lining for one of the views. And for the lining, they call for lightweight cotton, linen, poplin, or rayon. I chose sort of a medium weight flannel. It's from Sewing Studio. It's called their Shetland Flannel Redwood. It's a pretty red color, but it also has black threads running through it. They call it a chevron twill pattern. So I'll bring my dress form a little bit closer. Now you might notice that there's no buttons on the jacket yet. So it's pretty much finished except for the buttons and the buttonholes, but I knew I wasn't going to get around to that for the next week or two, so I just wanted to go ahead and do my review in case any of you were interested in making up this pattern this winter. So it's a sort of a medium weight flannel. Now I think I also saw this same fabric, I'm pretty sure at Guthrie & Ghani, but at the time it was a little cheaper at Sewing Studio, plus Sewing Studio's located in the US, so the shipping's also a little cheaper for me. So that turned out well. When French Navy first came out with this pattern, I thought it was just really a cute little jacket pattern. I like that it's slightly boxy, but not really oversized. I thought it had some cute pocket details. I'll put up a line drawing. It actually has two different pocket options. It's got these little slanted pockets, like I've put in, but it also has some patch pockets. Now this version also had a welt pocket, but I knew I wasn't going to be using that pocket, and because I was short of time, I just didn't want to mess with it because it does require several extra steps to put in that welt pocket. But I thought both versions were cute. Now this version has a partial lining, and for the lining fabric, I was doing an order from Mood Fabric, and I just kind of searched for their linings, and it came up with this flannel lining. So this is actually black flannel, but it's thinner than normal shirt flannel, and because they call it flannel lining, and I thought that would work out really well. It gives my jacket a little bit more, warmth. Plus they have this lining in here. It's just the front panel It's just the front panels, and then the yoke is the same lining. But what it does, it conceals this pocket, all this pocket detail back here. It conceals that. I also like it because it makes the side seams concealed. Now, if you don't make the one with the lining, when you do the yoke, you'll do what they call the burrito style, where you kind of roll it up and where it makes this seam concealed, and then it keeps the back seam on the yoke concealed. This jacket pattern has two different backs. It has this one with the pleat, and then it has another one where it's kind of got a seam down the back, and it's kind of pressed flat, and it's top stitched. And I liked both of them, but just to be a little bit quicker, it would definitely be the pleated version that's not going to take as long. Now I will say that this pattern, it was a PDF pattern, and it has a lot of pages that you have to tape together. And I think I had it laying on my kitchen countertop after Christmas for several days, and I would just tape a few pages together, then I'd tape a few more pages together. Now because it has two versions, there are some pattern pieces that are specific for just view A and some that are for just view B, and it tells you which pages to put together for which view. So you can save some time just doing the view that you're going to be working on, but I thought I may be wanting to do the other view in the future, so I just went ahead and taped and cut out all the pieces. Now this is the second French Navy pattern I've made. I've made their Tarifa T, which I really liked. And just like it has very good instructions. I mean, it has pages and pages of instructions. Every instruction has a good illustration with it. Now, all in all, I wouldn't say that the pattern gave me a lot of problems technically, but it was very time consuming. There were quite a few steps just to put these pockets in. And by the time I was putting the pockets in, I felt like I had made a whole jacket, but I was still only like halfway there. Now this is not a pattern to make if you're trying to make something very quickly, because like I said, it has a lot of steps. And because I was pretty busy at work, I wasn't getting to start my sewing during the day until the evenings. Something about when the sun goes down, I lose a lot of my motivation for any project. So each night I would try to get a couple of steps done, and it did seem like it was taking me forever. One thing that took a little bit longer was it said you could use top stitching thread. That was optional to do the top stitching. I noticed in my thread drawer I had a spool that was like a black rayon. It said decorative stitch or thread. So that's what I used for the top stitching. And I think all it really does is it kind of shows up a little bit more bolder than just like a polyester all-purpose thread. I'm going to kind of go through the basic steps of the construction. So first, you're basically going to work on, for this view, the pockets. And they do take several steps, but they're pretty easy to put in. But you just need to, mark your fabric well. So I did have a little bit of a problem just marking my fabric because of how dark it is, and also because it's kind of textured and it's soft. I normally like to use these kind of like gel pens. I think they're by Madame Sew, and they come with like blue, black, red or pinkish, and a white. And the three darker colors, they work really well. It's just like you're using an ink pen on your fabrics. But for some reason, the white one just doesn't work as well. And I've seen other reviewers on Amazon say they have problems with the white one. So I couldn't use that one. And so I was using just like a regular marking pencil, and it just wasn't showing up very well. Okay, my two little dogs just decided to join me in here, so you might hear a few little pitter-patters every now and then. So as I was saying, the pockets aren't difficult to put in, they just take several steps. I would say the most difficulty I had with the pocket is actually this double line of top stitching. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but I'll put the picture back up that shows the top stitching. But there is a double row of top stitching right here. This pocket has a black lining, just the flannel inside. and it comes to like maybe right around here inside. But they give you this pocket template, and you put your, once you have this piece on, you put your template on here, and you take like a marking pencil and you just trace right along the edge. So then that's your first row of top stitching. And I can still see my pencil a little bit, and I used like this silver gray, and when I was doing it, when I was marking it, it looked, you know, I could see it really well. But when I was actually sewing it, when I got down to these curves, I couldn't see where I was going. I guess the pressure foot, and I was trying to use like a 1/4 inch pressure foot, but I had problems even when I changed to the clear pressure foot. I was having problems when I got down here. I just couldn't see where I was really going real well. So in my first pocket, I was trying to take some of the stitching out, which, because this has black thread in it, and I was sewing with black thread, that was not the most fun thing to do. And then after you get that stitch, then you're going to go 1/4 inch away and do this outside stitching line, which pretty much gave me the same problem. That's why I had the 1/4 inch pressure foot on, because I thought, well, I'll just keep the pressure foot edge right by this first stitching. But then when you come to these curves down here, it's really hard to see where you're going and what you're doing. So I'd say that's the most difficult part of the pocket. Now, if you do a patch pocket, it's not going to be as difficult, because you're going to actually have the edge of the pocket that you're top stitching by. And so I think that would be a lot easier. Also, if your fabric is a lighter color, and then you can use a dark marking pen, I think that will help also. So that's the only problem I had with the pockets, was just trying to get these 2 rows of top stitching straight, and they're not exactly perfect. You might not tell that from the camera. They might look okay, but they're not quite, you know, exactly perfect. I wouldn't want to zoom in and take a photograph and put it on Instagram of the stitching. But anyway, once you get your pockets done, then you're going to be working on this button placket right here, or I think they call it a button band. Now, I think I forgot to say, but I did make this 2 inches shorter. This pattern is drafted for someone that is 5'7", and I'm 5'2", so I knew it was going to be a little too long, and it's drafted for a B cup, which is perfect for me. So what I did, I tried to hold up the pattern, and I wanted to hit about mid-hip, and I think it pretty much does. So I took 2 inches off here, and then I knew the sleeves were going to be too long, so I took 2 inches off the sleeve. Now, don't forget that if you do shorten it or lengthen it, you need to shorten or lengthen your button band. And I will tell you ahead of time that this button band, the pattern is not going to be the same length as this piece right here, the front. It is shorter, and it's supposed to be shorter. When I was looking at it, I thought, why is it shorter? But then I looked through the direction. Once this band is seamed, it's supposed to come even with the bottom of this pocket area. So this pocket right here comes all the way down to here, which is top stitch, and then the rest is turned back. So once you get the pockets, then you're going to be on the button band. Now, the only thing I didn't like about this button band is it's very bulky. And I went back to double check, and they don't really have you trim the seams. When you sew this on, they don't have you trim the seam. So about 3/4 of this, from this edge to right here, is very thick, because it's also interfaced, and then it also has this extra layer from this lining. So one reason I just didn't hurry up to try to do the buttons is I really want to take my time and get these buttons on here straight. And I think the whole buttonhole will just barely hit on this thicker part, because this little edge right here doesn't have these layers. Now also, I was thinking about maybe possibly doing some decorative snaps. And I've never done decorative snaps. The only snaps I have ever used are the plastic cam snaps. So I don't know how well metal snaps would work on this thick fabric right here, if that makes it really difficult to go through. So you might give me your opinion. If you've worked with snaps, do you think it would just be easier for me to do the buttonholes, or do snaps go through thick fabric very well? So that's the only problem I really have with this part, is just that it's so bulky. Now this pattern does show a lot of top stitching. So I top stitched right here. It says you can go around and top stitch this whole band, but I just did this one edge. And then you're ready to do the collar and the collar band. And it's not a difficult make. There's not a lot of easing, so that's not, that's not difficult. I did top stitch around here. They do have you trim the inside of this collar. I tried to get it as pointy as possible and as flat, and I've top stitched here. Now it said on this button band that you could top stitch it all around, and then when you do that you could try to catch this inside. What I've done is I've just hand sewed it right here, and I may go back when I do the buttons and top stitch this. It is fairly bulky where the top stitch will go, so I'm kind of worried that it might make it look worse rather than improve it. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do that top stitch. I think even if I was going to do the top stitching, I would still do the hand sewing, because even when I press it over a seam and pin it real well, for some reason when I'm top stitching on the outside, it never fails. There's always some sort of gap on the inside that doesn't catch. I think it just shifts around a little bit when I'm removing the pins or something. So I know by hand stitching it, this is going to be over the seam all the way around. I think I forgot to tell you that once you finish this button band, then you're going to finish the bottom of it. You're going to stitch across this right here, and then you're going to bring this up and stick it inside here, and then just top stitch this around. And then you're going to do the collar. And once you get the collar, then you're ready for the sleeves. Now before I inserted my sleeves, I sewed up the seam that's on the inside, and then I just kind of pinned this to the shoulder to kind of see if it was the right length, and I felt like it was still a little bit too long. I don't mind my sleeves being a little bit long. I'd rather them be just a tad long rather than a tad short. And I've also seen this jacket on Instagram where they've worn the cuff back, and that's cute. So when I did that, I thought it was just a tad long, so I cut a 1/2 inch off the bottom. Now, if you're shortening it after you've cut it out and sewed up the side, the arm seam, the edges of the sleeve pattern, they flare out at the bottom edge, so that when you turn it back, it won't be all puckered. This will be the same as this up here. So if you do cut it off, then you'll want to kind of make your seam go in. If you're cutting off a 1/2 inch, kind of go back in a 1/2 inch and then out, so that this edge will be the same as the edge that's up here. Now I will say that these sleeves were very easy to put in. Sometimes you get sleeves that require a lot of easing, and these don't. They do have you put in 2 gathering lines, and they say gather it up to fit the arm opening, but you're really not gathering it up very much, and you don't want gathers. You don't want to stitch down any gathers, you want it flat. And it really came out really well. I was really glad about that, especially after the rest of the jacket kind of taking me a long time. It was nice just to have something that went in easily. So there's not really hardly any easing in this. I think you could even put the sleeves in without the gathering lines, with just a few extra pins, because they were that easy. And then it tells you can top stitch the bottom of the sleeve, and it's got a hem that's the same width as this. Now, I didn't top stitch the bottom. I did a little hand hem right here. I thought if I do turn it back, it might look nicer if there's not a stitching line right there. But I may go back and top stitch it. I'm not sure. But I probably would go ahead and do a little hand hem, just like at the neck. Sometimes when you're top stitching around and you think you have it all caught on the other side, then you might have a gap or something. So I kind of like the look of it not top stitched, but that would just be a personal preference. When I was doing all this top stitching for the hem, I was thinking back about how like 30-40 years ago on all the patterns, everything seemed like it was hand stitched on the hems. The sleeves, the bottom, the skirts, dresses, jackets, everything had a hand sewn hem. And I was thinking back to last year when I started sewing again. I made like a little over 20 projects, and I don't think any of them called for a hand sewn hem. They're all machine stitched hems. So I don't know if that's to make them look more ready to wear made and less homemade. But sometimes I think a hand stitch hem just looks a little nicer. So once you get your sleeves hemmed, all you have left then is the buttons and buttonholes. So now I'm going to go pop my jacket on so you can see how it looks. I purposely put on this black t-shirt so it wouldn't clash with this jacket. So we'll go see how it looks and we can see how long it hangs on me. So here's the finished jacket on. And I think I did get the length about mid-hip. I like that length, and I think the sleeves turned out a good length too. They're just slightly over my wrist bone on the outside, but they're long enough that I can, fold back. This fabric does ravel quite a bit. So I, of course, made it on my regular sewing machine, but then I finished most all the edges with my serger. So the seam still looks pretty neat even if I, fold it back a couple of times. Now I will say that I probably won't be putting my hands in these pockets. I guess if you made it the full 2 inches longer, then your pocket opening is going to fall lower. So, but I still don't know if, if you'd go around with your hands like this, even though the pockets are plenty big to put your hands in, they'd probably have to be more, lower like this. But I think they are cute pockets. I think the patch pockets are also cute. And here's how it looks in the back. So just overall, I think it's a really cute jacket. Now, when I was making, I did get sort of just a little tired of all the different steps. And I think one reason, or I think a couple reasons, one was I was working on it in the evenings when I'm less motivated. But two, during the middle of the construction was when I was working on my Make 9 video, where I was getting all my fabrics and patterns together and deciding the ones that I definitely wanted to get made this year. And once I put those together, that's all I could really think about was I wanted to start making one of those. But I knew I had to finish this project first. So I think that's why I was just getting a little tired of the jacket towards the end of the make. But I do like my jacket. I wouldn't really recommend it for a complete beginner that's just starting to sew. But if you've made a few things, I think it's got such good instructions that you should be able to do it. I think I saw someone post the jacket on Instagram, and they said, I think they said they'd only been sewing like 3 weeks or something, and they did a really good job. So it's not technically, real difficult. And there's different ways you could make it a lot simpler. One thing, you could leave the pockets off totally, or do the patch pocket version. And then you can just do the 2 bottom pockets. I'm never going to use a pocket up here that I can think of. So it's just really a decorative element. Also, it's going to be easier to do if it's probably a little bit lighter weight fabric. And certainly the top stitching is going to be easier to do if you have a lighter color fabric, and that you can really see your marking pins, whatever you're marking it with. And I'm thinking I might like to make like a more spring summer version, because I wear cardigans and jackets pretty much all year round. You know, I'll take them into restaurants in the summer or the movies because I'll get cold. So for that version, I think like a medium weight linen would be really nice, with maybe a cotton lawn lining if I was doing the lining. Of course, if you just do the version without the lining, this placket right here, button band, is going to be a lot less bulky. But anyway, I think like a medium weight linen or a cotton linen blend if you didn't want it to be quite as wrinkly, and then maybe a cotton lining would be really nice. And certainly the pleated back view is going to be simpler than the seamed in the back with the top stitching, because you're going to have the seam on the outside, and you're going to have to fold the seam edge inside and press it and then do the top stitching. So that's going to take a little bit more time, and you're going to want to get everything all straight. And I would definitely not recommend using any really bulky fabric. I think that would make the button band and the collar band even more difficult, and trying to get it to lay nice and to stitch nicely. So that's the Portmanteau Shacket. I hope you liked the review. Now I have a couple of pieces of fabric that I wanted to show you, and I'm not quite sure what I'm going to be making out of those, so I might need a few suggestions. Now, if you've watched any of my early videos, you might have seen some where I talked about where I really liked the corduroy fabric that kind of had the fleecy backing. I'd seen Lauren from Guthrie and Ghani demonstrate it and show several different versions. Well, in my last Guthrie and Ghani order, I did order me some. And it is this really pretty, I don't know what the color, it's like a vanilla, but it's kind of a thick cord. And then on the reverse side is this real soft fleece. Now, originally I was thinking about making sort of maybe like a parka style jacket, maybe, you know, a low hip length jacket with a unlined hood where this could show on the inside of the hood, and maybe an unlined jacket so that this would show on the inside, or like a jacket maybe, and then make the collar with this showing on the outside. But my problem so far has been that a lot of the jackets that I've seen like that are for knits or not for wovens. And so this is, you know, woven. It's not a knit. It doesn't stretch at all. So I'm kind of having a problem just figuring out exactly what pattern to use. Now, I think I have 2 yards of this, and probably I should have gotten probably at least 2.5 yards because I want like a hip length jacket. So if you know of any cute jackets, you know, like I'm describing, where I could put show this fleecy on like the collar or the inside of the hood, inside of the jacket, and it's for woven fabrics, and it wouldn't take more than 2 yards, please put that in the comments. Now, this will probably be a fabric that I may not work on until next winter, so that'll give me all year to see, you know, about any new patterns that may be coming out that will be suitable, that aren't out right now. But it's really soft. I really would like to get it made soon, but one reason, it's really bulky and it takes up a lot of space when it's laying around. But I think it's really nice fabric. So that was from Guthrie and Ghani. Now, with that Guthrie and Ghani order, I did get that rosewood quilted fabric that I showed in my last video that I'm going to make the Hawthorne vest. But I also got the same quilted fabric in the dark olive. Now, it's the same type of fabric, but some of their colors had these vertical lines, and some of them had those kind of curvy lines. like the rosewood had, but this one has the vertical. And I think this is going to be really comfortable to wear. Now for this fabric, I already have the pattern picked out, and that is the Purl Soho quilted vest pattern. It's a free vest pattern, and I showed it in my 13 free pattern that I want to make in the winter video. Now that vest pattern has a bias binding around all the edges and the armholes. So when I ordered this, they also had matching bias binding. So I've got the matching bias binding to go around it. So I think that's going to look really neat. I do have the pattern put together, and I cut it out in muslin the other day. It's a very simple pattern. It only has a back piece and then 2 front pieces. So I'm trying to decide on how boxy, the width and the length, and I'm probably going to do a little modification on the bottom edges of it. But I do hope to make this one up fairly soon. So that was another fabric by Guthrie & Ghani. Now my third fabric is from Mood Fabric. When I made my Mood order the last month to get, I needed, a zipper for one of the jackets I'm making. And I also got that black lining for Mood from this jacket. I noticed they had a lot of cool looking sweater knits that were real textured and had a lot of neat color combinations. And they had them on sale. So I wound up getting this sweater knit. I can't remember what color it's called, but it's got sort of a, I think they call it gray. It's got kind of gray tones and a little bit of a brownish gold and then a little bit of a green in it. And I think even maybe a lavender or pink. But mostly it's gray, and it also has some black. So I don't know, some of the combinations they had, I would like all the colors, but then they'd have a color in it that I just didn't like or don't wear, like orange or bright yellow. But I liked all the colors in this. And one thing I liked about this too is the back of it is just sort of a smooth looking sweater knit. So one pattern I was thinking about maybe using is these Itch to Stitch Castillo cardigan that I showed in the Make 9 video. This is a knit, but it really doesn't have that much stretch to it. So first I'm going to make up that cardigan in that rose waffle knit that I showed you in my Make 9 video. It's not very stretchy either. I'm going to see how it works up in that, and depending on how it works up with that, and if I really like the pattern, then I'm thinking about making this up in it, because that one has an unlined hood, and I know that this fabric will look okay on the back side. And that cardigan also doesn't have snaps or buttons or buttonholes. And I think that's good, because I think this fabric, would be maybe a little difficult for buttonholes. I'm not sure how that would work in this. But anyway, it's very thick and bulky, and I think it'll be really warm even if it's unlined. So that was from Mood Fabrics. So these are the very last fabrics that I got in 2023. So this year I'm going to try really hard to sew from the fabrics that I already own from last year. And I'm going to try really hard not to buy any new fabrics. Now, as an exception, if I have a pattern that I already have, or like a new pattern comes out that I really won't, and I don't have any suitable fabric, then I probably will buy some fabric. But I'm going to try my best not to just overbuy this year, because I probably have enough fabric to do 24 different garments right now. Not just the Make 9. So that concludes this week's video. Like I said, I'm going to be really busy. It'll probably be a couple more weeks before I make my next video. I do want to finish the buttons on this jacket. And I want to get busy on my first garment from my Make 9, which will probably be either that little cardigan with the hood, or I really want to make my sweatshirt that has the sweatshirt fabric that has the lion heads and the flowers and that pretty sage green background. So those two will probably be the first ones made. I'm also been working on a new gift idea video. I've got a list of items and patterns collected, but I haven't made any of them. So I want to get busy making those and try to have that video out maybe by the end of February. Those videos do take a little longer because it does take me some time to try to select items that I think are usable but also cute and that you would like. I also tried to find patterns that are fairly easy and quick and that are also free patterns. Now they may not all be free patterns. I think so far for this video they are. And I also like to make up each one because I don't want to just show you a picture. I want to show you the finished item, and then I can also tell you if I have any, problems with that item. So if you enjoyed this video, I'd really like for you to give it a thumbs up. Thanks to everyone who's already subscribed to my channel. If you haven't subscribed, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button. As always, I would love to have you comment. I really enjoy reading your comments. A lot of times I learn things from your comments, and get your advice and can learn from your experiences and things that you've made. A lot of times I get tips from your comments, and that helps me with my sewing and my sewing journey. So keep those coming. So until I see you in my next video, take care and happy sewing.